Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Can you hear me? Archie, Munda, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
You can, very good. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Got a few guests waiting in the lobby, but what I'll do, I guess we'll get this going and then we'll take it from there. So, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Startup Fundraising Q&A. It's our 124th session. We've been doing these for almost 4 years now, where we've got 270,000 people that have joined these sessions. We used to do it first on Clubhouse. We then moved on to LinkedIn, and we're now doing this via Microsft Teams. So for those of you that are tuning in either via Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, please remember that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there. Therefore, if you do have any questions and you want to join us interactively, you'll have to do it via Microsft Teams. There should be a link on each of those platforms where we're live streaming now, with you being able to get onto Microsft Teams, and it's a quick registration. But just in case, as we go along, I will double check those streams to make sure that I put the link for the Microsft Teams. Now, the way this works out, it's quite simple. First and foremost, as to the reason why we do this, unfortunately, over 90% of startups fail. And the top 3 reasons for that is 1, market fit, 2, running out of money, and 3, not having the right people. And obviously, the second reason, the running out of money reason, it's what we're here for. And hopefully you won't only avoid failure, but we'll be able to help you with some tips on actually thriving. In terms of the questions you can ask, they can be on anything related to fundraising, whether it's your investor outreach or you want to know when's the right time, how do you go about it, how much you should ask for, should you go to a VC, an angel, should you try and apply for a grant or a crowdfunding campaign, or perhaps you want to know what's involved in terms of getting a data room or during the due diligence and all that jazz. Basically, there are no wrong or right questions for that matter. It's a learning curve for us all. What we'll do is go through some quick introductions. Then we'll ask the 3 brilliant investors we've got with us today, we'll ask them to give us their biggest do's and don'ts when it comes to early stage fundraising. And then following that, we will open it for questions. To make things easier, you might want to write the question down in the chat, and then I will unmute you so that you can then ask it live. This is audio only. And by the way, if you've got questions that are on other matters, please save them for the other rooms we do. So to give you an idea, on Mondays, we help founders with talent, Tuesdays, product and tech, Wednesdays, growth, and Thursdays, fundraising. And this month, we've also added 2 monthly sessions. First one, it's the second Friday of each month, which will be tomorrow. And this is a legal Q&A. So basically, a UK startup law Q&A with startup lawyers on stage on the panel. And then the third Friday of each month, there'll be a startup finances Q&A. All of these will be from 12 to 1 p.m. And the best way to get onto these sessions is to go to our site, startup2scaleup.club, and either join the WhatsApp group. You'll see the WhatsApp icon there, or just pick which session you want and RSVP via that. And now it's time for introductions. My name's Anton Call. I'm an Albanian in London working with startups. Normally, right after they get investments, I embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people. We also, or I rather, also help a few others with some growth advisory. And lately, I've been helping some angels and family offices with their due diligence and assessment. I can see we've got Archie and Munda here, and we're also hopefully going to be joined by Tommy Breen soon. But let's start with Archie and then Munda. A quick introduction, please, lads.
Thank you, Anton. Yeah, so my background, I work for Varesco Group, an advisory and investment firm specializing in the agri-food space. So that ranges from looking at sort of small to medium-sized businesses in the agri-food space, often family-owned that are looking to exit. And then on the advisory side, you know, these are companies ranging from sort of seed all the way up to Series B, looking to help with internal structuring, operations, and then which a lot of my work goes into is more the fundraising side from the venture capital space. Previously to Varesco, I worked at Microsft International, an asset manager, and worked in their venture division, made a number of investments into the climate and agri space, looking at alternatives in the plastic industry, circular economy, and other biomanufacturing processes. And then, yeah, just personally, originally from Shropshire, with quite a rural background, which sort of led me into the intersection between finance and the environment and food. Yeah, I'll pass on now.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, rather. My name is Munda Shahumi. I'm the founder and managing partner at Pearls Capital. Pearls Capital is a early stage venture capital manager. We like AI-enabled businesses purely because we don't believe the market is at the right intersection for AI-first type of businesses, and we believe that with the premise of AI-enabled operation, companies and businesses can scale at a much faster rate at a much lower cost than the past. So we look at the averages over the last 10 to 15 years in terms of number of staff for a unicorn company, and we're expecting that number to reduce significantly over the next 5 years due to the utilization and adaptation of AI. Our focus is on Western Europe with preference for UK, and we look at generally anything from fintech to insurtech to proptech, gaming, AR, VR, and as well as opportunistic for 20% of the portfolio, where it can be any other vertical with limitation, obviously, of being AI enabled. As personally, I obviously, I'm a emerging manager. This is our first fund. I spent the majority of my career in finance, advising sovereign wealth funds and working at investment banks, hedge funds, and institutional asset managers. And in terms of background, I'm a medical engineer with a master's in biomedical engineering and a second master's in data communication. Hence the decision at a later point in my career to move into venture because of the engineering background and the need or desire as a result of COVID to achieve something tangible above and beyond just numbers on screen that I'm accustomed to throughout my career. I am native Libyan, and that's all I think I have to say about myself.
Well, thank you very much to both of you. I'm not sure if Tommy is here yet, but if you are, please unmute yourself, Tommy. I'm sorry, I'm trying to do this from my phone, But perhaps whilst we're waiting for Tommy, if you gentlemen, Archie and Monte, if you'd like to give us an idea in terms of your biggest do's and don'ts when it comes to early stage fundraising. Maybe if you can think of 3 each, that would be great. But if not, just however many. Basically, what you've seen done well and what you often see done unwell, and you'd like founders to avoid, and you would try and avoid too if you were raising today. So perhaps we can start with Archie, and then we can go on to yourself, Munda.
So from sort of the top of my head, trying to find 5 there, I'll begin with just keeping it, it should be kept personal. These are investors that you need to get to know, in particular in the family office space or the angel network. It's important to sort of understand the investor, create a relationship, and make sure they know who you are as an individual and trust you as a person. Obviously, there's only a certain level of trust you can get to with after a couple of conversations, but still instilling that and creating that a good atmosphere. When it comes to venture capital firms, I would really drive home that you need to target the right ones. There's a waste of their time and your time if you're looking for investors who might be interested in your field but late stage or too early. And then just keeping good preparation before these meetings, ensuring that perhaps there are links between you and your company with actually their portfolio company. Sometimes an investment may come from them as a result of them thinking purely opportunistically whether you could be a customer or one of their portfolios could be a customer of yours. And there they will understand sort of the links between and their own work and your own. But off the top of my head, that's sort of a quick fire.
Thank you. I think I second that and I agree with all that you mentioned. We are in VC, we obviously spend a significant amount of our time fundraising ourselves, and anything I say here is based on experience, and it could be personal. Some elements of it are personal preferences, some elements of it is just process and showing that you can do your research before speaking to someone, because it doesn't do you justice if you go to a later stage VC asking them if they're interested in investing in a seed stage. So if you want to leave a good first impression, it's always making sure that you're providing relevant information that captures the interest of the person you're talking to. And by that, what I mean is make sure that you understand what is the thesis of that particular VC you're trying to reach to. Does it cover your vertical? Particularly, does it cover your stage? What are their selection criteria? Because every VC has a unique way of looking at things. In general, yes, everything is the same, but I put a lot of preference for founders and founder strength over the idea itself, because of the belief that a good founder can turn a semi-good idea to a good idea, or can turn a business that is failing to success. The other thing is, there's ample information out there in terms of investments. So make sure that you see what companies the founders or the VC have invested in the past, and see whether there's any synergies between what you're doing as a founder and what the other portfolio companies of that particular VC have done. And the one that really gets me is avoid general emails that are clearly generated through either AI or through standard templates, because that shows lack of personal touch when you're reaching out, and it's just a spray and pray approach, which does not fit well, and it does not capture the attention of the reader. So I receive emails, from people saying, we've been monitoring Paris Capital. We salute you for the amazing impact you had on the venture ecosystem. And reality is, although it's nice to button me up and say those nice things, but in reality, we don't have that kind of impact on the ecosystem. So those words do not actually help. What I like, and the emails that really capture my attention, are the emails that are very targeted. This is who we are. this is what we do. These are our numbers. And we believe that we fit nicely within your portfolio because of X, Y, Z, regarding thesis. And also we believe there's a huge amount of synergy between what we do and your other portfolio companies that are X, Y, Z. When I read that email, I know that is a personal email. That is an email someone spent time on, and out of respect, I will give it the due time to read it and understand it and wrap my head around it. So yes, in general, just be as personal as you can. Avoid templates, avoid contents that are not specific, avoid grandiose words that are not relevant to the idea, because you are seeking this investor, but you are giving them enough information to know and to assess that they need to be seeking you now because of the opportunity you provide them. So it's a two-way stream, but it needs to start on the right footing. I hand over back to you, Anton.
Thank you very much, Wanda. I was trying to find the mic, but me and my fat thumbs didn't work very well together. Tommy, can you speak now? Are you able to talk?
I'm working on my phone.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Good man. Introduce yourself, please, Tommy. And if you don't mind following up with your biggest do's and don'ts in terms of early stage fundraising, would appreciate that.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Tommy Breen, and I'm a senior advisor at the growth stage. So we are a capital raising platform working with, as our on the nose name suggests, growth stage businesses. So what that means in monetary terms is we're typically helping companies that are looking to raise a Series B round or later. So roughly in around $15 to $20 million, right up to much later rounds, pre-IPOs of into the hundreds of millions of dollars. And we're helping them raise from, only institutions, so not angels or anything like that. So, the likes of the asset managers, pension funds, some VC funds that all like to invest in those later rounds. And then I am also a mentor of Founder Institute, so do quite a bit of work with early stage founders as well, in pre-seed, seed stage. In terms of do's and don'ts, is there any that have been particularly mentioned? I just caught the end of Mundar's.
Don't worry about it. It's okay if you want to. And by the way, don't worry about repeating yourself or what's been said, but maybe just one each. In terms of what's really important to you.
Okay, so I'd just say, one of the big things is at the very early stages is, companies thinking that they need to go out and raise venture capital because they just hear about it and read about it all the time. But really, you need to, at the early stages, understand if your business is in fact, a venture backable business. So does your business actually, operate in a space? Is it disruptive enough to actually grow? To be, I guess, most VCs will look at companies and see, do they have unicorn potential? And that's really what you got to be thinking about. Is this business going to be worth hundreds of millions or even billions one day? I mean, you have to be honest about that. You have to look at the market size and, the potential for it and determine it, because not every business is right for venture investment. And so you need to spend time in that, do research and really understand, because if your business doesn't really have that opportunity, it's not to say it won't be a great business and potentially make you lots of money and be worth millions, but investors need the opportunity for that business to be really, really massive. So spending time, analyzing the space you're in and understanding, is your business got that opportunity to be that big, and is it a venture backable business? So doing that, if you don't do that and you go out and start sending your deck to investors like Mundar was talking about, and you could spend lots of time personalizing hundreds of emails and things like that, but at the end of the day you're going to waste your time, because if your business isn't venture backable, no one's going to bother coming back to you. They won't be interested in investing. So to save you wasting your own time, do that. Now if you do that process and you think that maybe you're not right for venture capital or you're too early, angel investment is still, an opportunity there for you. So angels don't necessarily need to see the absolute scale that venture funds need to see. So if a company, or if an angel even, is investing at an earlier stage, and the business is only being valued at $500,000 at an early stage, if that business you get to the scale of being worth 5-10 million, that's a pretty good return for an angel. But just for venture funds, it needs to have, you know, much more scale opportunity than that. And so that'd be my biggest thing to focus on very early on.
Well, thank you very much, all three of you. Really appreciate it. There are some very good points there. I'm going to do a quick reset of the conversation. So if the three panelists would like to have a look at the chat room, I've put a link, sorry, a question that we just received from somebody who's tuning in via YouTube. But in the meantime, a quick reminder for everybody. This is Startup Fundraising Q&A. It's our 124th session. We're here to help founders with whatever questions you may have as you need to fundraise in order to take your business forward. The idea, it's quite simple. If you are a founder who is doing that at the moment, then please tune in here on Microsft Teams, by the way, because we are not able to monitor your questions on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever you're watching our live stream from at the moment. So please bear in mind to join us. You've got a link on all of those live streams, a link to join us here on Microsft Teams. It's a quick registration and you'll be into the room. For those of you that are here already live, your questions can be on anything from pitch decks to the right time to raise, how much you should ask for, how do you prepare for your due diligence, you know, should you go to an angel, a VC, a corporate VC, and all that jazz. Really, there are no wrong or right questions, so no need to be shy, and don't leave it for too late, because we're only here for the next 38 minutes now, so we haven't got much time. But if you do have any questions, get them in as early as you can. So either raise your hand, or actually even better, write the question in the chat room first, and then I will happily unmute you and let you ask the question. For those of you that have got questions on other matters, please save them for the other rooms or conversations rather that we do. So to give you an idea, Mondays it's talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays growth, and Thursdays fundraising, and they're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. You can RSVP to any of them via our website, startup-to-scaleup.club, or you can also join our WhatsApp group, which is probably the best way. Join our WhatsApp group, and there you'll get alerts for all future rooms that we run. Now, I'm hoping my panelists have had a chance to look at the question that I put, so we'll go through this first, and then we'll bring up Karen, who has got another question in the chat room. So this is a lady that was watching us, and I'm assuming hopefully she still is, on YouTube. She says that she's got a cybersecurity background, and then she goes on to say, we're preparing to meet with investors, but I'm concerned about the equity terms they'll propose. How do I negotiate equity terms that ensure we don't give away too much too early while still making the deal attractive for investors? What clauses should I watch out for that could lead to loss of control or other issues down the road? Well, before I pass it on to the experts, here's a quick one. Number one, there's a few things. First, it would be nice if you actually joined us here live, because we could ask you some sort of follow-up questions and get to the bottom of it much better. Secondly, I'm assuming you are very early stage, so my advice is a few things. Number one, if you've got traction. Number two, if you've got a strong team. And number three, if what you actually are doing is worth anything. That is a good way to get good terms or better terms. And then the rest, you need to find a decent lawyer. Perhaps you might want to join us tomorrow for our Startup Legal Q&A, 12 to 1 p.m. But now, let's hear it from the investors. So let's start with Munda this time, then Archie, then Tommy. Take it away, please, fellas.
Thank you, Anton. I mean, this is probably a very good question. It's one of the points that ends up causing a lot of time and a lot of cost, financial cost, due to lawyers. My advice, if someone comes in, depending on the stage you're in, if you have a product validation, i.e. through a bootstrapping or some sort of revenue, the message you're signaling to the investor now will depend on how much you're asking for. If you're very clear on your ask and why you need it and where you're trying to get the business with in terms of runway and main KPIs, then the discussion becomes a little bit easier. If you have no product and literally just an idea and you're trying to get backing for it, you have to be very understanding that the investor in this case is taking a huge amount of risk with you. And even though the idea may be worth 10 million, 100 million, or 1 billion in 5 years, you are not in 5 years, and you do not, and you need that backing in order to be able to achieve that success. So you have to be willing to give a little bit more if you're at that stage. Now, I say this, but I also say that we have a hard limit in Pulse Capital that we will never invest more than 25% at the early stage, purely because we believe that too much dilution of the founders at this early stage will deter follow-on investors because of the concerns of control, et cetera, and influence. But if you are someone who is coming to the table with very reasonable valuation, very clear idea on how much you're trying to raise and why you're trying to raise that amount, then it becomes a little bit easier. Now, I always advise people, you do not waste too much time and you do not damage the relationship through negotiations too much at that point. We do not actually get fixated on valuation. We're value investor, we care about it, but we don't get too fixated on it, because it's all about the maths and making sure that the expected returns for our investors are within our criteria. Now, that leads us to the important things within the term sheet. And absolutely right, the control is one of the most contested areas. The clauses around board memberships, right to appoint board memberships, removal of founders from boards, etc., etc. Those are all terms. Liquidation terms, etc. Those are terms you need to be aware that if you're looking for an investor to come with you on a journey, i.e. not just a check writer, then you have to understand that the controls are not to control you, but the controls are there to ensure that they are part of the decision-making process. Now, you never give, it's not unusual for investors to seek a little bit more voting rights than their share will allow them to. And by way of example, I'll give you an example. So we do not go more than 25% equity. However, at the early stage of establishing the company, we expect the board to be constituted of 3 members, 1 from the founders, 1 from us, and 1 independent board member to be the balancing person between and the good thing about having an independent board member there who's rewarded in equity, who is a subject matter expert, is they will be truly independent. They're working in the best interest of the company, not necessarily the investor or the founder. And that will be a good balance between the 3. Now, mindful of the liquidation terms, because those are the ones that could give the investor the right to call a liquidation event, which means that, and then the liquidation terms will dictate how much the investor gets before his full participation or not, and determines how much the investor gets before anyone else gets paid. Often those, for me, are the ones that are worth spending time on. Other terms, they need to be discussed and they need to be understood, and you need to be very clear on the type of investor you want on your cap table. If you want cash only investor, make sure that you structure your fundraise to cater for that. If you want an active investor, make sure that you understand that those active investors will come in with their own predetermined term, just to allow them to play that active role.
Fantastic. Yeah, I completely
Thank you
agree
very
with
much. Go ahead.
Everything Munda was saying there. In terms of the amount of equity you give away. It doesn't necessarily matter whether it's sort of 10, 11, 12, but as you say, 25% or more given to an investor is quite a lot. And not only will that potentially create issues for voting rights, it may do in future fundraisers. For example, I'm currently in a fundraise at the moment with a particular Series A company, and someone there, one of the actual founders, unfortunately died, and there's around 40% of the company that's non-voting, and as a result, one previous investor of VC has quite a lot of control. That is quite a deterrent for future rounds for other investors coming in, can really be the make or break. And so in terms of the early stage numbers of how much equity you're going to give away, I think the most important thing is to really lay out the groundwork of your long-term vision together, how you can be partners to each other before actually getting on to how much equity you're going to give away. And at that point, you really sort of understand whether how much you should be giving control to this person or not. And then in terms of the actual term sheet, again, just reiterating what's already been said, board positions, voting rights, and then perhaps drag along rights as well might be a consideration. But this is something that obviously a lawyer would go through in extreme detail. Yeah, that's probably all from me.
Thank you very much, Archie. Tommy?
Yeah, not a lot to add here. I guess without them, coming up, it's a little bit vague, so I don't really know specifically, why they're concerned about things. So it'll be easier to ask them if they're here and, talk about negotiating. But, I guess at this stage, really what you want to worry about if you're preparing to meet investors is, just focus on getting meetings. And, if you do get meetings, put your first pitch in and then, worry about things further down the line. But, if they're the right investor and going through the process, it's all going well, you shouldn't expect to see anything, unsavory or unusual in the terms or in the equity being asked for, as the others have covered. So, I think at this stage, it's maybe worrying about something that you don't need to be worried about. You can start worrying whenever you're getting into due diligence and negotiation if you actually have offers on the table. But it would obviously be helpful if they could join by Teams so you could speak to them and find out a bit more. Yeah, not a lot to add other than, with the clauses, looking out for things like liquidation preferences, especially anything more than a 1x liquidation preference, or participating liquidation preferences, all those things which you can read about yourself or ask lawyers to help with. But those things obviously are what really can kneecap founders if they have to do a down round or flat round, but also can make it really difficult for future funding rounds if there's unusual liquidation preferences and things like that in there. Later stage investors that would come in, don't like that stuff and it need to be cleaned up. But again, if investors are trying to put that stuff in, I'd question, are they really the investor you want anyway?
Thank you very much, Tommy. Really appreciate that. Karen, are you okay to talk? I've unmuted you so you can use the mic whenever you wish. You are here.
Yeah.
Good man. Right. So you've put in a question there, but I'll leave you to it. As in, introduce yourself, please. Tell us what your startup is about, and then fire away with your first question.
Yeah, so I'm the founder of Mecanto. Mecanto is a wellness and health company. We sell natural products, the main one being sea moss. Sea moss is a type of seaweed, but it has 92 essential minerals. And so 92 of the 102 minerals found in the body. And we source it sustainably from Jamaica, which is where I'm from. And the company we started a year ago, we've done pretty well up to this point. The main thing I have now is about how we grow the business and how we get funding.
That's a good question. Thank you very much, Karen. Karen, can I ask you, when you said you've done pretty well, what do you mean by that?
So we started a company officially, registered around this time last year, and we started trading in March. And so far we've made around almost up to 6 figures in sales. Our primary point of sale is on Amazon, and we also sell on our website, but that's around 10% of what we get through Amazon. So yeah, from my point of view, I think we've established that there is a market for it. And now it's about understanding who our main customers are, how we market them, how we speak to them, how we reach them, and also grow the business in terms of partnership with retailers and distributors.
I hear. Thank you very much for that, Karen, and very well done on what you've achieved so far. I'll give you my quick 2 pence, then I'll pass you on to my experts. Number one, in my experience, for physical products, it's extremely hard to get VC funding. What I would do, I would focus on a couple of things. I would focus on some kind of a sort of angel who's dealt within that kind of industry, and 2, perhaps I would go to what they would call a corporate investor, somebody who deals with similar stuff, or perhaps has got some kind of sales company that sells similar things. That's who I would go for money for. In terms of growing the business, again, probably the same thing. Try and find somebody who has sold to supermarkets and various other businesses that would need this. I wouldn't focus on sort of selling it one by one. I'd carry on doing that via Amazon and whatever other platform you're using, but maybe you could use that money to actually find somebody. Ideally, I would actually go and try and convince somebody to join you as a co-founder who knows this business well. Although the growing business part, it's a better question for our growth room, which is on Wednesdays, and would be more than happy to go into detail next Wednesday if you'd like to join us, Karen. But let me pass you on to the investors, what their advice is on perhaps getting funding for this. Shall we this time start with Tommy, then Archie, then Munter, please?
Thanks, Anton. Yeah, first of all, congratulations on getting to this point where you're nearly into the 6 figures of revenue. That's pretty good. The e-commerce space is tough and very competitive. I would say this, just the first question, is it that you're at the stage now you need funding just because you're not got enough cash flow to keep up in product, or do you need a lot of money? Do you need money for marketing as well? Is it just Amazon you're selling on? I just to understand a bit more how you're selling and what you need capital for.
So it would be both. So it would be for growth, and it would be for marketing as well. We sell on Amazon. We market on Amazon using their platforms. But we've started this month to start marketing for our own website through social media, primarily Instagram and Facebook at this point. So we have this assessment for the next 3 months to see how it performs, and then we reevaluate if those are the right platforms for us. That takes, obviously, capital. We've got a really small budget, and we're trying to do the best we can with it. So the funding will help to increase that budget and to also increase the amount of products that we can buy, and in terms of raw product that we can buy and sell.
So I'd say first thing, it's going to be very expensive, marketing your website on Facebook and Instagram. It's competitive, and you're coming up against health brands out there that are spending hundreds of thousands a day in this. Acquiring consumers that way, it's very expensive, and it's very difficult to do it profitably. What I would explore is actually, using TikTok Shop, and in terms of content creation, you can actually TikTok Shop, you need to do some research on it, but it's been really successful for a lot of businesses, and you can go on there. You can actually find, you can make your own content, but obviously not everyone's a great content creator and can create viral content, but you can go on there, and they actually have a marketplace where you can reach out to creators on there, and you can ask them to create content or promote your product, and you can create affiliate links. So then if somebody buys it from their content via the TikTok Shop, the creator gets, paid off the affiliate links. So I would look at the affiliate stuff in TikTok Shop, because that'll be potentially a cheaper way for you to market. So you don't have to pay upfront. You can just get creators to create content and promote the product, and that way you can drive sales. So I'd explore that. And then in terms of funding, there's loads of businesses, and I'm sure you've done some research already out there, that actually do specifically funding for consumer products, consumer brands. So there's an Irish one that's been very successful called Wayflyer, and they've, this Clearco is another one, but there's lots of these companies, and they very specifically fund exactly your type of business. So if you can show some traction and you've been selling, you can go to them and they will, lend you money to actually fund the business. So I would explore that as an avenue for funding, but it is helpful when you go there. Obviously, the terms that you can dictate with those lenders will determine how good your flywheel is effectively. So you're able to show, for every dollar of marketing, we're generating $1.50 of revenue, or $2 of revenue, or $5, and then we've got a gross profit of X, Y, and Z. So if you can actually have quite a good marketing flywheel, and TikTok would be a good way to do it, that'll obviously be able to get you better terms. But if you need capital fast, then maybe take a small amount to start on, maybe tougher terms, and then if you can actually spend that and improve the economics of the business, the unit economics, and then whenever you go to increase that line of credit, you can get better terms. So I would look at those e-commerce lenders.
Thanks,
Thank you very much for that, Tommy. Sorry, Karen, go on.
No, we're just saying thanks. Thank you, Tommy.
Good man. Thank you very much. And now I believe it's Archie and then Karen, if I'm not mistaken. If we can, let's try and keep the answers to about a minute each, because there's quite a few people after Karen who've asked questions. Sorry, fellas.
Really interesting hearing about your company, and I've got a couple of questions first, just before actually getting into about funding and growth. In terms of marketing, I'm really the wrong person to ask, but in terms of what you're using seaweed for, I may have not really grasped this at the start. Is it human consumption? Is it fertilizer, nutrients in the plant, arable world? Could I get a little bit more info, please?
Sure. So I didn't actually touch on that, but it's used as a product which is consumed by the person who's buying it. It comes in two different forms, or at least we sell it in two different forms, which is the dried version and the CMOS gel. The gel is the ready-made product which you can add to your food, your smoothie, or you can just have it on its own. We recommend taking about 1 to 2 tablespoons per day, and with each tablespoon you get 92 minerals and vitamins. The dried version, you can turn it into a powder, so you can sprinkle it as a toppative, like on your salads, and you can also rehydrate the dried version to turn it into a gel. People also use it as a topical cream, so they use it as a face mask because it gives them more radiant skin, and it helps with acne and that sort of stuff.
Interesting. Okay, so what I was going to say at the start was trying to look for organic growth, and then actually putting that the revenues there into some sort of trials. And I was thinking it was more agricultural, but you could similarly do that in terms of the dermatological side of things, have some clinical trials perhaps. In terms of funding, as Anton said, I was definitely go more towards the angel network, or also find syndicates maybe perhaps that are strategically aligned. By that I mean there are a lot of syndicates in Scotland that these might be high net worths who have personal interests in seaweed cultivation, especially as awareness is growing on the west coast of Scotland and using that. And then finally, really, there are grants to be had as a result of the environmental benefits of using seaweed in more and more in our lives, as a result of the way it's able to fixate carbon, sequester carbon, and or also the way in which it can use communities in the harvesting and the processing process. If you're just buying it off a wholesaler, I presume, did you say Jamaica? you may not be able to have access to that, but certainly one to look at. And then finally, yeah, angels who are interested in bioactives in terms of the skin issues, and yeah, try and get some real trial data there. I don't know if you've had to get any so far, or whether it's already been done by another party for you.
Sorry, what was the last point you made?
Trial data. So if it's, I would have presumed you need to have, is it GRAS certification that's able to be consumed by humans?
Oh yeah, we have all of those certification, and it's tested by bureaus of standards in Jamaica and in the US as well. So yeah, we have all the right certification in terms of it being able to be consumed by humans.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Thank you.
Yes, Mundo.
Okay, thanks, Anton. To be honest with you, I think I second what Anton has said, and I'm not going to ask any questions because obviously that will exceed the 1 minute allocation. In reality, I think your best option in this type of business, consumable business, is a little bit different in business as a business model. Your bank is your friend in this case. I mean, my advice would be build a war chest through organic growth to make sure that your financial position is strong with your bank. They see a long-term relationship, and then you have a number of products that you can approach the bank to help you, whether it's revolving credit facility, whether it's actually a fixed term type of facility. The other option would be to look at the credit, the venture credit funds or the allocators, because that's another approach. But given that you're not looking to expand your growth, your idea of growth is actually marketing, while my concern is when you talk about growth to potential lenders, they want to see growth in terms of production, in terms of capabilities. Marketing itself is a temporary solution, because if you're trying to build a long-term or successful brand over a long term, the client or loyalty or customer loyalty becomes your friend. Becoming a household brand requires a little bit longer time, and making sure that your referrals are organic through personal recommendations, etc. But for all transparency, we are an investor in a logistics company that is a sole distributor for TikTok shops. So of course, I'm going to say TikTok is probably one of your best options in terms of getting the support from them for market for brand awareness. And the interesting part of it is that lack of necessity to pre-allocate cash, and the amount you pay will be tied up to performance. So if the affiliate program participants do not generate leads, then they don't get paid, etc., etc. But yeah, I agree. This is a business model that is probably will be very successful. I don't believe it's a fit for venture capital investment in general.
Thank you very much, Mundo. A huge thanks to all three of you lads. Hopefully you found that useful, Karen.
Yeah, I did. Thanks to everyone that replied.
Good man. And if you do find, by the way, I'd love if you can join us next Wednesday on growth, and we can go into a few things there. But if you did then find a larger sort of potential buyer, what can work really well in the UK, it's invoice financing, Karen. And once you have a purchase order or invoice or whatever it may be, you can go to your bank and get quite a bit of money against that. And I know a ton of businesses that actually finance their business in that manner, especially consumer product businesses. Best of luck, man, and hopefully we'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I've given the mic to Tom Newton, I believe it is. Can you hear us, Tom? Are you able to talk?
Yes. Hi, I can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. Quick introduction, please, Tom. and then fire away with your question, which I believe was on pitch deck length. Is that right?
Yeah, pitching.
Fire away.
Thank you. Thanks, Anton. Thanks for the opportunity to ask my question. I'm co-founder at BeyondForge. We're building an AI data intelligence platform focused on empowering teams in their day-to-day work roles. Currently pre-seed. We've been working on the platform for a few months, got a CTO in place at the moment, and we're going to be looking to go and get seed funding, or at least maybe initial pre-seed funding. When we get in the room with investors, how long would the ideal pitch be? And if using a deck, how many slides to use as a guide? I've seen some suggest 10 slides, maybe try and pitch for 10 to 15 minutes. But that's the main question. But any other advice from the investors for us at our stage would also be appreciated. Thanks.
That is brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Tom. Tom, can I ask you quickly, how big is your team in terms of the co-founding team?
It's just myself and my business partner, so 2.
Good on. Okay, thank you very much. And if you don't mind muting whilst I pass it on to the investors, please keep it at 1 minute each, fellas. So we'll start with Archie, then Munda, then Tommy.
In these situations, I'd just say you do need well, horses for courses. You need a number of different decks that you can use in different situations. There are some odd cases where you really do have to rush through something, and investors do just expect it to be about 10 minutes. So, and then others, you know, the call might be actually really an hour. So in these situations, aim for one version of your deck, which is 10 to 15 minutes long. The next version is more gearing towards sort of the 25, 30 minutes. Always be prepared to have questions be sent, you know, asked throughout, which quite often can throw one off guard in the order in which things are done. In terms of the number of slides, try and keep it to a minimum. So let's say, you know, these are numbers I'm plucking out, but it's sort of there is truth in this, that aim for around 10 slides for the 10-minute one, or a bit less, and then as naturally for the 25, 30-minute one, have a few more. But it's best to not just be flicking through from slide to slide to slide with, you know, every other word you make and death by PowerPoint. If there is something you really don't want to delete that slide and you think should be in, use your appendix. Put that in, fill that out, you know, as much as you want, you know, 10, 15 slides, and just know that if a certain question came up later on in the Q&A, you can flick through later. But yeah, high level detail as best as possible, and let them delve into, you know, granular bits where they wish to, rather than forcing it upon them. Sorry, probably a bit over in a minute, but yeah, anyone else?
Thank you very much, Archie. Munda?
Yeah, I agree with Archie. I think you have to bear in mind that a deck you send to investors to read and understand, and a deck you walk investors through are slightly different. So my recommendation is keep the deck high level, answering the questions that you believe are relevant. So around the why and what you're doing, and why you're doing it, and how you're doing it. Who's doing or who's the members of the company, your market research in terms of market sizing, etc. Show that you spent some time understanding your vertical very well, and understand that when you're sitting in a meeting, two-wordy presentation, regardless of how good it is, it will not give you the results you want. You want the engagement through questions and answers. You want, you know, the investors to look at the slide and say, it was very interesting. Have you thought about this? And this is where the session becomes a little bit more engaging. If I walk into a meeting with you and give you a very good presentation, but there's very little engagement, 6 months down the line, you're not going to remember me. But if I walk in and we actually engage, and I do my presentation in such a way that it's open, it actually welcomes engagement slide by slide, then I will leave a little bit more impression on you, and I'll hopefully be memorable after 6 months. Make sure that you have, the contents of the slides are addressing all the selection criteria, because a lot of the VCs are very clear around the selection criteria. And they're very similar in early stage. So it's trend to founders, team, market, product, why you believe this is a good idea now, because it doesn't have to be a new idea. It could be a recycling of an existing idea. And if you're doing that, you just have to explain why now is the time to do it versus 5 years ago, etc. Make sure that you also have an investment memo that have a little bit more wordy that people can read prior to that. So if you reach out first, the deck is probably not the best thing because you want to explain it, but a memo should have enough information for people to read and then have another meeting.
Thank you very much, Wanda. Last but not least, Tommy, your 1 minute starts now.
Yeah, not a lot to add. I would say as a general rule of thumb, whatever length of time your meeting is, keep your pitch to a third or less that time. So if it's a 30-minute meeting, don't speak for more than 10 minutes. If you speak for 15, you're going to tell, you're never going to answer everything the investors want to know. So it's best to let them ask what they want and just keep your pitch deck pretty concise, like 8 to 10 slides. The appendix is a good idea that was already mentioned, but all you're trying to do in your pitch is, this is you're selling, and they're going to see loads and loads of pitches every day. So you want to stand out. So make sure you convey the problem pretty clearly at the start and quickly and emphatically, why is now the right time to solve that, as Munder said, what your solution is and why you're the right team to do it. Don't be talking about, 10 different features you'll add in product roadmap over the next few years. They just want to know about execution. So, what's the roadmap now? What's go to market? What's the MVP look like? And why are you the right team to execute it? So, be pretty punchy in your pitch and then allow lots of times for questions. And having an appendix there is a good idea. So I would consider that as well. Then if you want to put more visionary product roadmap stuff and how this business looks in 5 to 10 years.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And Tom, if I can give you my quick 2 pence, I'm sure Tommy and Archie, who've been here before, they might have heard me say this, but there's something I call NWIDS, Tom. N stands for need. So you've got to think, what is the need that you're fulfilling or the problem you're solving? W stands for want. You've got to think, who wants this? I stands for innovation. You've got to think what innovation you're bringing to the fore. D stands for disruption. You've got to think, how are you going to disrupt the market out there? Basically, who do you need to steal clients from, as in which competitor, current player? And S, which stands for scalability, and that is almost just as important as the N for needs, i.e., how are you going to scale this? What team do you have to do it, and so on. If you can convey that within a 10 slide pitch deck, then you're not doing too badly. Whilst I like Tommy's point on the 1 to 3 rule, I, as somebody who likes to talk a lot, used to suggest to the founders I've worked with to actually try to keep it at 20 minutes for a 10 minutes maximum 15 minutes Q&A. And the reason I did that instead of the 1 to 3 is because often it's probably best to just give some of the key data to the investors rather than wait for them to ask you, because often they can just kind of go off piece and ask you all sorts that they don't really need to, when all they want to ask you is, whatever you just actually should have said in the pitch anyway. But I really like the idea of having different pitches for different occasions, and also good teaser works out quite well if you're reaching out to somebody first time rather than when you're talking to them. I hope that helps, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you very much. We are extremely sorry. There's a few other questions and a few hands up, but unfortunately, we are now 1 minute away from wrapping this up. So please forgive us. A good tip in order to get priority for asking questions in our Q&As is to tag our LinkedIn page. So post on LinkedIn, tag our LinkedIn page and say, I'll be attending whichever session you want to attend and you want help with, whether it's talent on Mondays, product and tech on Tuesdays, growth on Wednesdays, fundraising on Thursdays, or the second Friday of each month for legal and third Friday of each month for finances. So just tag our page, our LinkedIn company page there, Startup to Scale Up Club. It's easily found, and we will then give priority based on who tagged us first. And hopefully we'll be able to help a few more people. And also, please don't leave the questions for too late. You know, as soon as you join, put your question in the chat and I'll bring you up straight away. Now, without further ado, some quick parting words, if I may, from the panelists. Let's try and keep them to actually 30 seconds because I don't want to keep you too long, fellas. So perhaps we'll start with Munda this time, then Tommy, then Archie. Take it away, fellas.
Thank you. So, Anthony, I mean, to be honest with you, my only comment to people is a no from a VC is not a judgment on your idea. It's just a declaration that the idea is not fit for their thesis. So do not take it in a bad way. And the other thing is you need to make sure that you partner with the right VC who adds value to you. Money-only strategies never worked. I mean, my discussion with a lot of the second-time founders or founders with failures in the past that led to successes in the future were always about the support they received or not received from their investors at early stage. I am a big supporter of pure venture strategy, whereby we are very close to our entrepreneurs. We support them throughout the life cycle of the round, and we allocate resources, we allocate our time, etc. While the big players will allocate a semi-junior analyst or semi-senior analyst that only knows things from VC world and doesn't understand what does it mean to be a founder going through the struggles. And part in word, anyone who actually takes the risk and starts their idea and puts their time behind it is someone who's worth a lot of respect and worth commandment. And even if it doesn't work, do not take it in a bad way, because a failure today is only means a success in the future. Just be consistent, be persistent, and don't give up.
Thank you very much, Munda. Really appreciate your time and input today. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. Tommy. Oh, Mr. Breen. Can you hear us, Tommy? Archie?
From my side, just to double down on what Munda said. Don't get demoralized by no's. Quite often it actually reflects more on the VC or the investor's capabilities or their own expertise, especially when they say that you're not hitting certain milestones or actually at a level in which they're willing to take the risk. It often reflects on what they're able and their capacity is. Pick your partners wisely and keep on searching for an investor that can not just provide capital. And then finally, it's easy to say, isn't it? Say keep the work-life balance, but do try and keep find some time purely away from your phone and your laptop and away from your business, because I can understand it. It is all consuming in every way with the weight of the company on your shoulders. But yeah, no, good luck to everyone.
Thank you very much, Archie. Unfortunately, Tommy had to run because he's going into a meeting. But huge thanks to everyone for joining us. Really appreciate you tuning in. To those of you that have listened to us today via YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, or any other social media where we're live streaming now, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions live. Therefore, next time, if you would like to ask us any questions, only join us on the Microsft Teams call. We will be advertising those and posting those, but a good way to make sure you don't miss one of our Q&As is to either go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club, and either RSVP there to your preferred session, or simply join us on WhatsApp. On our site, you'll see the WhatsApp icon. If you join us on WhatsApp, you'll get alerts for each session that we do. In terms of sessions, we run 6 regular sessions, 4 weekly and 2 monthly. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, and Thursday's fundraising. And then second Friday of the month, which is tomorrow, we do one on legal, so UK startup law. And the third Friday of each month, we do one on finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. I would love to hear from yourselves on any of those, depending on what your need and challenges are. Please spread the word. We need all the help we can get, despite having had 270,000 people join us, as we've helped over 1,500 founders. Because we've now changed into this platform, I think we need all the help we can get to spread the word, so please do so. And all I can say is just remember, the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun, be kind to yourself and everyone else, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for Startup Legal Q&A. Thank you, and God bless. Bye-bye for now.